Welcome everyone to Don't Speak on It podcast, the podcast that keeps you energized, informed, and empowered. I am Slaheoldine.
And I'm Theresa.
And we have another amazing guest today with us. We have Palma Black. Palma, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me. Lovely
Absolutely.
to see you both today.
You too. And I just have to say, I absolutely love your name. When I first heard your name as Palma Black, it just sounds like, to me, like a shiro, like a superhero. Like it just sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like the superhero I would want to be as a kid or even as an adult.
That's so lovely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's such a powerful name, and having met you, you're a powerful woman. So we're really, really honored to have you.
Oh, just thank you. Just on that, some years ago, I went to a dinner and I introduced myself at the table, and a woman was sat there going, and afterwards I said to her, what's the matter? And she said, your name is amazing. Palma Black. That is absolutely fantastic. So now sometimes I introduce myself as being Palma Black and just watch people's faces and they're just like,
I love that.
Yeah.
That sounds even cool. That sounds cool too. Palma Black. Yeah,
exactly. It reminds me, I got the power.
Very strong. You were clearly destined to be the activist, the leader, I don't know, it's like, I always think sometimes, do the names already pre-chosen, or do we become the names that we're given? But you definitely have the right name for what you do. And I want to just give a bit of just a introduction to you and what you've done, because you've achieved so many things so far, and you're still achieving amazing things and creating a fantastic impact socially on people's lives, saving people's lives, I'm sure, with the work that you're doing. I don't even want to cut down too much of your intro, because I think it deserves to be spoken. But I love, there's the sort of a quote that I guess personifies you, which is shaped by discrimination, molded by resilience. And that's, a really beautiful way to kind of, I suppose, maybe put everything you've done in a nice sort of rounded way. And just a question actually on that before I go into the intro is that something that you've sort of felt through your journey that sort of describes you, or is that something that someone kind of said that this is what you kind of bring out?
I think it's been something that I was trying to grapple with. And someone asked me recently for a short biog and said, how would you describe yourself?
Yeah.
And I think that where I am in my life today is being a case of having to overcome so many obstacles and challenges. And I know that we're going to talk about some of that today. And so people today see me as, strong, and we can talk about that trope as well. But it's come through overcoming challenges. And a lot of that was discrimination, and how I've had to kind of build myself and fortify myself to where I am today, so that I can look back and say, well, actually, I am who I am because of those experiences.
Yeah. And I think that's powerful. And as you said, that's the word strong, and putting that with Black women is a very intricate connotation. And yeah, we could definitely dive into that, which it probably resonates with all of us. But so just to give people an idea about Palma and her experience and the things that she's achieved. Palma, you attended Imperial College and you read applied biology. So you are a scientist. Would you say you're a science, bioscience, graduate? And you have a passion for social justice, and you're a founding member of the Anti-Racist Alliance, ARA, the organization succeeded in making racial harassment and violence criminal offenses, which sounds, I guess, now quite bizarre to say that those things weren't criminal offenses previously. And then, you've also supported many families who have been who had members in their family victims of race murders. And it's also really astounding and amazing to see that you were instrumental in establishing the Stephen Lawrence Family Campaign in 1993. So you've done some exceptional work that has changed a lot of people's lives. And, that's definitely, worth noting. That's something that will affect and probably still affects a lot of people. And your experience in history is very much so in the communities in London and the southeast of London. You were head of community regeneration in a large G15 housing association for almost 10 years. And at the same time, you're working in the local trust as a local trust consultant, big local rep in Westminster and Islington. So yeah, you've been connecting with communities via some of these large institutions for a very long time. And more recently, of course, you have established this amazing organization called Soul Purpose 360, which is a community interest company offering coaching, mentoring, and training for Black women who want to develop within the community. And you hold national Black women networking events, empowerment circles, and your organization, I think when we had a conversation, is 600 strong. So you have women all over the world, Jamaica, Antigua, Europe, Africa, really subscribing and being a part of this amazing community that you've created. And then whilst doing that, you're also associate director at Atkins. You're head of engagement there for Eater Off, which is Everyone Deserves a Roof Over Their Head. So see, that's an impact program that you're running there with them. I'll definitely hear more about that. And with that, you address social and affordable housing challenges with brown sites, underutilized land assets, and engineering construction. In addition to that, Palma also has a consulting company, Palma Black Consulting, specializing again in community and resident engagement. And you're an associate consultant for Communities First, which also provides support for real estate regeneration schemes as well. So you're very much in the sort of, again, housing and real estate and construction field as well, which Theresa and I are very passionate about. And then you're also a grant panel board member of the Football Foundation, Premier League, FA, and the government's charity, helping, again, communities improve their local football facilities through football grants. And I think probably the most important role that you have maybe in your life is that you're a mother of two beautiful and successful daughters. And you're based in Surrey, which I grew up in Surrey as well, so I resonate with that. And in your spare time, you're DIYing your beautiful house, which you have behind you there. So some really fantastic things, and just want to say congratulations, and very proud of you and your work that you've done, and really looking forward to getting to know you a lot more. So just thank you very much for being here and spending time with us today.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for inviting me here, and I'm so looking forward to our conversation. So yeah.
Amazing. My kids grew up they was born in Surrey, and Croydon is Mayday. So very
same.
very familiar.
Yeah, my children were born in Croydon near Mayday as well.
Yes. Well done. I really love hearing all that you're doing, and I'm too very passionate about social aspect. I even put it on my LinkedIn that I am. So I look forward to this conversation because it's very needed.
So Theresa, I think you have probably so many questions as well as I do, but go ahead with your first questions for Palma.
Yeah, working with the social aspect, and as far as we all know that everything is institutional. It starts from the way it starts from housing, but it also starts from housing. It also affects the schools, and it affects the amount of money that each area gets. So the funding for, programs and dealing with stuff. Really, what's really important, yes, the housing is very, very, very important, but the schools is a huge issue, because from the schooling, from the housing to the schooling, it also affects how people get jobs, and how they come out as far as income base. So it's a whole cycle, in its own. We all know that, people in the, they use the term BAM or BAME or whatever. We are the lowest paid. We are the last in, the first out. And all of this is economically designed in a certain way or another. I know in the US they had, what they call redlining. So back in the days, they didn't want certain people in certain areas. But it's all designed. How do you think us as a people, how can we help our area? I mean, I know you do a lot. You're helping a lot, and I know it is designed, and sometimes it's fighting those institutions a lot. We're constantly fighting institutions, but us as a
Yeah.
people, how can we do more to help out, to within our area, to help build it, and because it comes to a point where we can no longer depend on them, even though it's a big problem within it. But we need to be able to get to the point where we can help each other and help ourselves as well.
Yay. Oh, that was like a massive question, and
I'm
my
sorry.
mind is just my mind is just tripping over so many things. And I like the way that you framed it about how can we help ourselves, and I think that's really important. There's so many things. So first of all, you talked about social policy and how funding is apportioned, and one of the things that I think is really important is that when we're given the opportunity to say who we are and where we are, we need to do that. And I'm talking about the census. Far too many of our people are refusing to play a part in those things. And what I'm trying to always impress upon them is that if they don't know you're there, they don't know you're there. You won't get those services. So all of the local authority funding that is apportioned to councils is comes about from the information that we put into the census.
Okay.
And if you don't say that you're there, then the money won't go there. And so this is one of the reasons why historically areas where lots of Black minority ethnic communities are underfunded, because they refuse to participate in those basic functions. So that's the first thing. We're here in this country. We may not like what's happening here, but we have to do what we can to help ourselves. So first of all, be a part of the research, play the game that we have to play the game in order to make sure that the money comes down to us. My role in communities, very early, back in maybe 2000, I was working as a volunteer in Croydon, and this was after my involvement in national politics, and I was doing lots of stuff for lots of different people. Simple things like helping people to access benefits, writing letters, making phone calls on their behalf. And then I found a job, and I think the job title was Community Development and Social Policy Officer. And when I looked at the job, I thought, oh my God, they're going to pay me to do what I'm doing anyway. And I ended up getting this job, and it was one of the best jobs that I ever had. It ended disastrously due to sexual harassment and bullying. But what that job meant was that I was able to conduct research in the Black community, to talk to people about what was ailing them, what they wanted to see in their communities. I could pull all this research together, write a report, and then present that to the main decision makers in the borough. So, the chief executive of the council, the director of housing, education, social services, the business sector, the voluntary sector, the whole lot, with and health as well, with recommendations for change. And a lot of these changes were taken on board. But what was really sad was there were so few of us as Black people that were doing that. And as much as people were reluctant, and they have really negative attitudes about structures in society. Oftentimes there are ways in where you can make an impact, where you can bring about change. And I've said to people that by default of sitting at a meeting and raising my hand and interjecting, millions of pounds have gone into certain areas, and that's what we need to do. We need to have more Black people sitting at these tables and raising their voices and influencing policy change. Yeah. And that's kind of one of the reasons why Soul Purpose 360 exists, because what I'm trying to do is to get more Black women to play a role in civic life as well. But yes, housing, education, our health, all of these issues, we can play a role in influencing them. And we must play a role in influencing them. We can no longer wait for Mr. White to make those changes for us. We have to take those actions.
Why do you think there is an issue? There's obviously something inherent. I don't think there's a conspiracy among Black people to say that we're not going to complete the census, or we're not going to put our heads above the parapet. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe it's an ingrained thing. But why do you think, in your opinion, Black people aren't putting themselves forward for these roles in policy, in leadership, in getting in amongst the decision makers, irrespective of what you look like? You've got the drive, you've got the ambition, you've got the will to want to change things. Why do you think people aren't making those steps into those spaces? And also, why are they not completing censuses and things like that? Why are they not being part of this change, even though they want change?
I thought the census was a legal requirement. Sorry, I'm confused because I thought it was a legal requirement. I know they said that you can get in trouble if you don't fill them out when I get them. So
yeah, but some people don't complete them, or they falsify the.
Yeah, but that's what.
Yeah. Or they miss out, they leave gaps,
they
don't fill it properly. Yeah. But to answer your question, Slaheoldine, it's about racism. And it's about sexism, and it's about the experience of people. We only need to look at, Black people that join the police force and what happens to them. Black nurses and the racism and abuse that they get. So I'm not to say that it's an easy thing to do. It's really, really hard. It's hard to be in those meetings and justify your place in those meetings. And it does require a certain level of confidence and, I don't know, just really being tough and putting your foot down and saying, I'm going to make this point whether you like it or not. So it is hard. Yeah, it really, really is hard. And I think a lot of it has to do with mindset as well. I'm a really big believer in mindset, and I think that what we have to try and do is to change the way that we think about ourselves as well. And there's that thing about, us being valued as individuals and being valued as a community, and therefore making society value our contribution as well. But it's about trust, and it's about our experience. And I think a lot of times when Black people are being asked to take part in something, very often they can talk about an experience where it didn't go well for them. And sometimes that one time can be enough to put people off. So if you've had a poor experience of education, that can be a deterrent, whether you go on to further education, whether you stand up to be counted, all of these things, so it's not easy. And I do understand where our people are coming from. And part of the role of working in community development is about trying to build trust and trying to build bridges between communities and statutory organizations as well.
I feel that we're so sometimes as a Black woman, a Black person, I feel like we have to constantly fight, whether we're fighting at work, whether it's at school. Our children have to constantly fight. Me, myself, I'm very active in the school. I live in a non-Black area, but I'm very active in the school because sometimes teachers don't know how to deal with our children. People don't know how to deal with our children, whether it's sometimes police officers. Sometimes they don't know how to deal with us and take us. So what I find is that sometimes my children's school go over the top when it comes to disciplining children, and they do it all, and they constantly don't know how to deal with children. So I'm very active on them, because why do you pick on a good student? Are you trying to turn them bad? Why are you constantly picking on children? Let children breathe. Stop. So I'm constantly fighting with the school. And some children don't have that as parents. Some parents aren't able. And I told the school the other day, fighting with you and dealing with you and your issues is becoming a full-time job, and I'm fed up. Because they tried to say my daughters had detention when she didn't. And when she tried to explain it, the lady wouldn't listen to her. So she just walked away. And I had already sorted this out the day before. So at this point, I'm fed up. I said, stop penalizing these children for no reason. Stop doing it. When they constantly have people picking on them, and maybe they don't have that type of support at home, then they lose hope.
Yeah.
And so us as parents, it's a whole issue. On top of fighting, we're dealing with, like you said, the mindset, and constantly fighting. And we also have to constantly fight for our children.
We do. And as you were talking, I remembered my daughter, she's 18. Well, she's coming up to 18. But when she was in school and she was having supply teachers, they would treat her away. And she would come home and she would talk about the difficult lesson that she had. And I'd have to say to her, because they don't know you, because they're expecting you to fulfill a certain stereotype.
Yep.
And it's having to tell your children that it's heartbreaking. I went through that tough time how many years ago, and to think that children are still experiencing that now, it's tough. But it is incumbent on us as parents to have those conversations with our children, to be there for our children, to listen to their experiences, to advocate for them, to play a role in being a parent governor, and all of those things to make life easier for those that are coming up behind us. So yes, like yourself, when my oldest was in primary school, I became a school governor as well, just to make sure that I could keep an eye on what was going on for her. But there's only so much that those of us who are active can do. There are many, many more who have time on their hands but are not doing what they could and should do. And that, for me, is a source of frustration.
Yeah, it does make it challenging. And I think, as you said in the point earlier about why people choose not to be involved, and the way that you put it and phrased it, I get it, because I think it's a concept I didn't necessarily think about, because I'm similar to you, and Theresa's similar in the way where we were like, we're fighters, we're activists, we want to speak for those who can't speak for themselves. And so to us, that's a natural thing to want to do that. And if we get that opportunity, or we see that space, we step into it, we step into that light, and we're ready to take on whatever consequences that brings. But I understand from some other people's perspectives, they don't feel that way. But even like you said, just from the schooling perspective, you may not have children. Like I don't have children, but I'm very passionate about changing the status quo of Black people and anybody who's being discriminated against for the future. So, I do a lot of stuff with schools. I work with kids, as much as I can, even in things where, when I would do a martial arts class, and I'd always end up having these young boys calling me like sister, and like, I'll be their big sister. And so I found myself in any way with the things that I was doing, always making sure I take a interest in what some of these kids are doing, because I understand as well, unfortunately, the society and the social way that is being impressioned on young people, especially young brown-skinned people, young boys, young girls. It's making them, I think, confused about the way that they need to portray themselves in society. But that's adding on to the discrimination that they will face inevitably within this community. And then I think because they're battling with that level of identity, and then they're getting a bad reception from, like you said, police officers, from teachers, from anyone in authority, there's kind of this like marginalization that they experience. And I do see them confused, very much so. And a lot of them are good kids. You know, when I did a project in Croydon, which Theresa was a part of, and there were so many kids there that were just, you know, if anyone was to see them, they would think, oh, these kids are just, you know, there's no point wasting your time with them. They're going to bad schools. They're, you know, they don't present themselves as kids who really want to, you know, learn or apply themselves. But when you actually spoke to them what they wanted to do and listened to them, they had all these dreams and desires and wanting to be lawyers, and you just saw it in their eyes, and they listened. And when you asked them questions about subjects that they probably haven't even learned, they knew the answers. These kids were so smart. And I just thought, they just need someone to ask them what they want or help them and listen to them. But they look at them and they judge them. And
yeah, you remember the one who said, you said, well, why would you say that? Like she thought she wasn't good enough.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
she was only young. She was like a year 8, you know, like a 12, 13-year-old girl. And she felt like she didn't deserve to have an opportunity, even though we were giving her an opportunity. And it's just
when a baby is born, they are like a blank canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And their canvas is painted by the people closest to them, first of all, you know, their parents and their siblings and their communities.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they begin to grow up and begin to have an awareness of themselves because of what other people are telling them that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go out into the world and they begin to develop themselves based on their experiences that they're getting. And so we are all a product of our experiences and about decisions that we've made along the way. But no one is born bad, you know. And when you consider how Black children are seen and how they're treated in school, and that further reinforces their limited beliefs in themselves, their hope for their futures, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. You know, and so, you know, what we're trying to do, I think one of the things we're doing with Soul Purpose 360 is to raise awareness of personal development and raise awareness of the power that we have as individuals, you know, in order to reach back to our children and to help them to see themselves as powerful beings. But really, it does start with young children. You know, we have our kids, and as much as we don't 100% trust in the British education system, because we have to work, we put our children in these places, in these spaces, and what they're doing is they are messing with our children's minds, you know. And therefore it's incumbent of us as parents to try to deprogram our children as much as we can when we do have those precious moments with them. You know, I love the fact that, you know, so many parents are choosing to homeschool their children. You know, some of us simply cannot do it. We cannot homeschool our children and work at the same time, you know. So we have to be a present, positive, influencing life force for our children and lead by example, you know. And so when you talked earlier on, when you started out, Theresa, by saying it's about us, what are we going to do? You know, we need to be more present in our lives. We need to be more present in the lives of our children. We need to be more present in our communities, you know, and stop looking for that savior to come and fix it for us, that community leader or whoever it is. It's about us as individuals, about us as women, about us as a community working together for the betterment of us.
Yes. And we need to, what I call it is reinforcement. So when my children come home and they tell me about a situation, I reinforce that good back into them. I reinforce that positive, because if they're constantly treated, like you said, treated a certain way, it will lower their self-esteem if they don't get that reinforcement from home.
Yeah, it
And
is.
it does.
Yeah, it is challenging, and it is hard when you said, like you said, Palmer, when people outside try to tell you who you are and how you should act and how you should speak, and based on stereotypes. And it is difficult, and they can do that also with siblings. And like, I've had situations being at school, and they tried to marginalize my brother and tried to make him, and we grew up in Surrey, so again, him and I were the only two Black kids in our entire school. So he definitely had a lot of he was a target pretty much for everybody. And then I became a target, and I was, and it was very challenging for me, one, to see my brother go through that. And then also when he left, it was like they were looking at me to try and put me in that same place, interrogating me and all sorts. And I remember crying. That was and that's the head teacher doing this.
Yes.
That's the head of the education system that I was a part of. And I'm in what year 6. So I'm 11 years old, 10, 11 years old. I'm a child. And having to tell my parents that, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. But I think because my parents understood what we would go through, we had conversations prior, knowing that if anything happens to you at school, anyone talks to you a certain way, anyone handles you a certain way, you let us know. And I think it helped having that support system, at home, knowing that, okay, this doesn't feel right. Because as a kid, sometimes, especially if you brought up with the values of, respecting elders and respecting, authority figures and all of that stuff. And that's for any child, you kind of, you think that what they're doing is right. You think they know what's best, and you kind of go with it. And then you might think, this doesn't feel right. But if you have someone to go home and say, look, this is what happened, and they can say, no, that's not right, and that's not correct, and this is not how it should be, I think that can help, like you said, Theresa, to reinforce the positive. But then some people don't have that. Some people don't have that reinforcement, or they're not able to do that, and that can make it very challenging. But I think it's interesting to see how that now moves into the sort of the housing side of things, and what are some of the challenges that people face. And I know that there is still a large amount of discrimination when it comes to housing and the opportunities to be housed. So what are some of the challenges, Palma, that you're hearing from people that they're facing at the moment?
So many. I mean, when you consider that the cost of living crisis impacts everybody, but research has shown that it's impacting Black disabled women more so than any other group. So Black women, we're always at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
Historically, that's always been the case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie in the education thing with the housing thing.
Okay.
In my coaching experience now, I'm meeting a lot of women who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, who are stuck. They have a low self-opinion of themselves. They have real limiting beliefs. Many of them are not aware of coaching. They're not aware of a different way of thinking. And in a session when we're talking and we're explaining, or where they're explaining why they are where they are, the realization that racism has played in their life can be a light bulb moment for many. They haven't realized that their life has been limited because of the experiences. They've not been able to find the words, the language, the thought processes to understand that. And so many of them are so impacted by those formative years that it's shaped who they are. So now they find themselves in social housing, they're single parents, some of them have depression, they're suffering from isolation, they've got all of these things that are going on for them. But when they join the dots back, what they're realizing is it started from when they were kids. And this is the way they are at the moment. So you've got, lots of Black women who are living in social housing. And I say that they're trapped in that system because social housing offers a safety net. a comfort blanket.
Yeah.
You know, where you're here and you're living in this house. It's not of your choice, but it's where you've been put. You know, it may not be in the best area. You know, there's crime outside of your front door. It doesn't look very nice outside there, but
Not
you're in this
maintained.
space.
I said they
All
don't
of that.
maintain it. Yep.
Yeah, they don't maintain it. You've got damp and mold. That's a whole different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, they're in these places and they're living on benefits, and they're afraid to take that next step to get a better job, because if they earn a certain amount, they lose that safety blanket. They lose that, and they've never been in a place where they can stand up with their straight back and say, I've got this and I can do this, and no matter what happens, I'm going to make those strides. So they limit themselves even further.
Yeah.
They will come and they will say, oh, I can't work over 16 hours. I can't earn more than this because I'll lose my benefit.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, but you know, that's the leap that you need to make.
Yes.
You know, and it's tough.
Mm.
It's really tough. So they're trapped in these places and in these spaces. And I remember many years ago now working in social housing, and we had the director came in to a meeting and she asked everybody to think up project ideas. She had £10,000 she wanted to spend on a particular estate. Think up project ideas for Black single mums.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there and I thought, oh, here we go. Because that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
First of all, you're supposed to go to the estate and ask people, what do you want? What are your needs? But no, she came in, she had this idea, she wanted to spend this money on Black single mums. And so she asked to go around the meeting and everyone to come up with ideas. Lord have mercy. Every time one of my colleagues opened their mouth, I just felt like I wanted to reach out and punch them. But it was breaking my heart. I mean, they were coming up with ideas like basic literacy and numeracy, or cooking on a budget, or parenting classes. Really, really derogatory, condescending project ideas.
But had you not
And
been
then
in
they
that
came
room,
around.
sorry, Palmer, you happen to be in that room, but it just shows you how those decisions get made by people who have no impact on those, who are not impacted by those decisions, who never had that experience. And that is what's happening everywhere. And you just happen to be the person who could understand it and really empathize and feel that what could be needed. You just happen to be in that room, but there's so many rooms that's happening in, and these people are making decisions like that.
Yeah. So when they came to me, they were all sitting there waiting, and I just turned and I said, "Is that what you think of me?"
Mm.
And I said, "Because I'm a Black single mum,
Yeah.
2 kids. I'm a Black single mum. Is
And
that what you think I need?
Stereotype.
Basic literacy, so bad." And their response was, "No, not you, because you're different to them. Tell me how I'm different."
Exactly.
And then we spent half an hour with these people in the room trying to convince me that I was middle class. And I'm there saying, no, I'm working class.
Yes.
I'm just like those women that you've written off.
Yeah.
So, you know, after the meeting, I spoke to the director and I said, look, you know, I think we should be doing things like offering business classes and how to go about getting a degree and stuff like that. How about getting a better job? And her response shocked me. She turned around and she said no, because if they got better jobs, they'd move away. And that would lead to communities not being sustainable communities. And that's what I mean about our women are trapped in these places and in these spaces, because nobody wants the better for them.
No, and that's definitely institutional racism at that. And let me tell you, I have a friend who she was in Section 8 in the US. She said she got off of Section 8 because she realized it was a trap. She realized it was a vicious cycle because you couldn't make a certain amount of money. Once she changed her mindset, she's made $1 million now. But once she changed her mindset, it totally different, because you know, you can't be on it. It is a vicious cycle, vicious trap that keeps you to not you can't do better, to make you think you can't do better, or you don't want better. Who wants to be in that? And that's one of the reasons as a single parent is that I'm not on council, or anything. So, because I don't want to be limited.
I was in a meeting recently, actually, and it was an NHS meeting. So I get invited to participate in some focus groups, and this one was about NHS, and it was about racism. And the authors of the research posed this situation where they said that in talking with nurses, a lot of the nurses were saying that they didn't want to apply for the bigger jobs because they would leave their friends behind, basically. And so this was their justification for there not being more senior nurses. Just looked at them and I said, but hold on. Everybody wants a better job. Everybody wants more pay. It doesn't make any sense what you're saying to me. And I kind of had to break it down and get them to understand and realize just how pervasive racism is in the system. And it's not that these women are saying, I don't want that better job. They know that there's going to be racism.
Yes.
They're experiencing it in their day to day. It doesn't matter where you go, the racism is going to be there no matter what. So for you to then turn around and justify the fact that there are no nurses in that position because the nurses are saying, I don't want to leave my friends, that's absolute rubbish.
They don't want to, and to be honest, they know once they go up as well that it's going to be probably even worse, and they're going to have to deal with a whole bunch of other crap because we already deal with a certain level, a rate. We deal with it at a certain level anyway. Whether you start off at the bottom, you still deal with it, and a lot of times we go into work, they don't want us at a higher level anyway, so they do their best to keep us out. One thing I wanted to bring up, because I call it colonization, do you feel that colonization plays a huge role on our mentality and how we think?
Yeah. I mean, Bob Marley put it in a song. I see people in a club singing and dancing there, but I don't think they understand what that means about you free yourself from mental slavery.
Yes.
And it's incumbent on each and every one of us to be responsible for ourselves, and that's why I'm on this mission to bring personal development to every single Black person. We can think differently, and as a result of thinking differently, we can be different and we can do differently as well. So colonization, yes, and it's not just a historical context. It's about where we are and why we are where we are today. And I think if people can really understand that context, then change is possible. But it's about removing that veil, and it's about understanding our own perspective on our own lives. And we only live this life once. We're not going to get a second chance to make amends or to do things differently when we're gone. But whilst we're here, we've got all of these opportunities at our disposal, and we do need to understand what that colonization means for us in today's context.
Palma, this is taking you back when you said about the getting degrees or education. So another thing, I read an article because my background is HR. So I read an article years ago, 2 years ago, about people of of ethnic minority. We are highly educated. We are educated higher to a certain standard than individual who was born in this country or whatnot. However, we are the lowest paid, and we are also the last to get jobs. So with that being said, sending our children or going to and what I've come across as far as when I was in HR and recruitment is that some of our Blacks and even other people from other ethnic minorities, they have the education, but they still can't find work. With me coming from Atlanta, and I spoke to Slaheoldine about this, is that we have to start creating businesses, creating our own opportunities. Everyone can't be a business owner. Everyone can't be people, not everyone wants to be a business owner, self-employed, but we have to start creating opportunities for others as well.
Yes.
What would you suggest? So do you have any suggestions about someone who's gone to school, who has education, who can't find work, and finding it hard because every time you turn around, they're just being knocked down by the application process, by the interviewing, and they losing all hopes?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell that by two stories and then move on. So my daughter, my youngest one, remember coming home from school one day and sharing her concerns for the white boys in her class who were not paying attention to lessons. She was genuinely concerned for their future. And I said, Jazz, no, worry about them. This is a white man's world. Their future is secured and they're assured. Don't you worry about them. Worry about yourself. A conversation with a white colleague, a young man at work, who was telling me about his meteoric rise in his career. And I decided to sit back and listen to what he had to say. And what he was basically saying was the amount of doors that have been opened for him and opportunities that have been afforded for him by other white people. But it was when he said that this particular woman had got him a pay rise and got him a big job, and he didn't even feel that he deserved it. But she looked at him as a son that she never had.
Yeah.
So my thing is, when we as Black people are in positions of power, when we are in positions of influence, we need to give somebody else a hand up. We absolutely must do that, and not feel ashamed or feel that, our managers or whoever are going to question us. That's our right to do that because they do that. But for young people, I would say networking, finding yourself a mentor, asking those questions, and looking for good role models. Not everyone can be a footballer or a musician, but there are role models that are in every industry that they can look to and reach out and say to them, will you be my mentor? We need to develop this mindset in our communities that this is how we create our own, like the Old Boys Network, where we can open doors for young people and we can give them opportunities to learn and advocate for them so that the next generation has that leg up that we didn't have, so that it is about us as a community saying, what can we do to make things better for those young people coming forward as well?
Yeah, that's so true. And so what about on the other, so the flip side, and we talked about this just before we started, is the super ambitious, driven women that we are. We do multiple things, and I don't know if there's a subconscious level of not wanting to fall through the cracks or be subjected to some of the difficulties that others are facing. So we're always making sure we work hard, always making sure we have to deliver, we have to keep going, we have to keep strong, that group of us. And I think we are very driven, ambitious women and really trying to make change. But then there are some disadvantages to that, and a lot of pressure and stress that we put on ourselves to constantly deliver and be at this level that we are at, and to try and maintain it and make sure we don't get taken down, and we have to keep going. So I think that's a difficult struggle. I think internal power struggle. I think that I definitely experience sometimes, putting so much on my plate, doing this, doing that, wanting to help every single person, maybe, and putting myself last, maybe my well-being last, or, so I don't know. I think we all can maybe, you guys are all nodding and smiling, so I'm not saying something that you guys probably haven't been through, but as a female, and maybe it plays a part in the fact that we're Black females as well. How does your experience doing all of these amazing, fantastic things have challenges on your maybe mental health or well-being, or, I don't know. How do you feel about that position? And then there's this strong Black woman connotation as well. I mean, what is, well, yeah, how does that make you feel? Question to both of you.
I mean, for me, it's a difficult one, really, because I get that some women do feel that pressure, but I would say for me, it's not that pressure. Now I think potentially years ago I've been a single mum always, and I've brought up two daughters financially by myself always, and that was hard. Being a single parent, that was hard. And it wasn't necessarily always about the money, that the money was important. It was about being a good role model for my children. It was about being present for them. It was about trying to have fun with them and give them the time as well as do the work. And very early on with my first daughter, what I realized was I couldn't work full time and be there for her full time. So I started working self-employed, so that I could take her to school and I could pick her up. And I remember years later acknowledging that actually she never realized the sacrifices I made for her, but it worked out well for us because I was earning a lot of money at that time, and it meant that we could do things at that time. But that taking that risk that I talked about earlier on about, Black women in social housing being afraid to make that leap, it worked for me. And I think it can work for others. And I think that, my back was against the wall and I had a decision to make. Do I give up work and be on benefit so that I could do these things? Or do I try something different? And I tried that different thing and it worked for me. To where I am at the moment, I do lots. I do I do a lot. But everything I do comes from a place of passion. And I think when you have passion for what you do, you get energy for what you do. And so I don't feel like I'm doing too much or I'm putting myself at risk. When I get tired, I stop, you know. But I love everything that I do. And I try to do as much as I can in one day. And everything I do comes from a place of passion. So I'm just loving life right now. Yeah.
I think once you reach a certain age too, like for me, and as Slaheoldine knows, because I'll be 44 in January. So for me, I was on this kick. I have to give back. I have to do more. I want to leave a legacy. I too decided self-employment because it allowed me, I was going through a divorce, and it allowed me to be there for my children, not just physically, but emotionally, because they were going through it with me, the divorce.
Yes.
And so if I hadn't done that, I saw they were preteens. They were very, to the point, and I told Slaheoldine a lot of this, they were to the point where they could be, manipulate, peer pressure and going through that stage. So if I wasn't there and establish a relationship with them, my daughters could have went another way. And that wouldn't have been the way I wanted them to go. They would have been hanging out, doing whatever, probably, not respectful. Instead, I put that time in. I became their friend. Yes, I'm their mom, but I became that person that they can come home and tell me how their day is and what. And I ended up now, they listen, they look up to me. I'm their role model. Where other kids are vaping, they know, they don't understand why kids are vaping, because I had to teach them it's okay. Don't be a follower. Don't do what other people do. It's okay to be different. It's okay not to do what everyone else is doing. So these are some of the things I've had to constantly put into them, but it took me having to give them that time, and self-employment worked during that time. For now, they're at a stage where they can kind of do for themselves, but they know the difference between right and wrong. Now I can go out and do other things, but yeah, I'm like you. I'm very passionate. I want to give back. I want to leave a legacy. I want to do my, God's given work that I was put on this earth to do. And I'm constantly pushing. I've done a career change. I've moved from HR to into construction recently, and I'm on the construction site. So, because HR is predominantly 91% of white. It is not a diverse industry. There's a huge difference, and I don't think I wasn't able to put my stamp and make my difference in that, doing an HR not the way I wanted to, because it wasn't wanted. They didn't want it. So that's another reason why I became self-employed. I thought becoming self-employed will be able to make a difference. Now I want to make that difference more from the inside, hands-on. I want to, whether it's for my own or for another one, I want to be able to help others closely more better, and not with just an HR, whether it's from a managerial role or, yeah.
So what advice? Okay, so you women are strong, resilient, powerful people. You've got the right mindset. You guys have developed works on yourselves, read, and have good people around you. So, there might be people who are similar to us, wanting to do good work, but maybe they don't have the right people around them, or they're not sure where to go, or they don't, they're just, don't have the right mindset yet. And maybe they do feel struggles and pressure, and, everything is on them. There are a lot of single mothers out there for sure who are juggling this sort of thing. And then there are women who are just, building up their career, like me. I don't have kids, but I'm very focused on, building my career, building a steady life for myself, having to be responsible for everything, financially, buying a place by myself is a difficult task financially. I have to make sure I'm earning enough money to be able to do that for myself. I can't go in and buy something with someone, which makes it easier. I can't split my bills. So there's challenges as a single woman, and I'm 33. So I'm still feel in myself, building up my status, building up my career, building up where I am, and then also trying to help others. And it is just that perseverance and mindset of, okay, just keep going. You've got the goal in your head. You're passionate about everything you do. I feel like where I'm at in my life is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And, but yeah, what about some of the ladies who are kind of on that journey, but, might not have the right environment around them, and they do feel that challenge trying to do it all on their own, and trying to fight all of the scaries in the world? What kind of advice would you guys give for women who want to do better but don't know where to start or how to start?
So, as you know, I am the founder and director of Soul Purpose 360, which is a Black women's empowerment organisation, which blends personal development with community development. And we also have the National Black Women's Networking and Empowerment Circle. But it wasn't, when I set it up, it wasn't that I sat down and planned and said, this is what I'm going to do. What I wanted to do at that very early on was to coach and mentor just a handful of Black women at a time, to have those empowering conversations with them, and but also to bring those women together in small groups so that they can be of a support to one another, so that they can have those connections. And we launched in 2020. We had the Croydon launch, brought some women together. That was really good. We were going to launch in Newham, where I was working at the time. And then lockdown came. And one of the women was like, what are we going to do? We can't meet. And I was like, oh, no. So someone said, create a WhatsApp group. And I'm like, what is that? And so, I took my phone, and then they said, well, everyone's going to join this group. And I'm like, fantastic. We all at the same place. Fantastic. And then over the following weeks and months, women were texting me saying, "Can I join your group?" And I'm like, "What group?" And so in the end, we were growing really fast and we had 30, 40 women. And I'm thinking, what is this? I'm
Yeah.
not going to get to meet you all. It's like. And so that's why we ended up calling it the National Black Women's Networking and Empowerment Circle. And I allowed it to just grow organically. And like you said at the beginning, it now has got global
Yeah.
membership. And what that tells me is that there's a need for Black women to come together to support one another. So I always describe the membership as being on a spectrum. At one end, there are Black women there who will say to me, "Palma, I have no idea why I'm here. My mother, sister, cousin, auntie, next door neighbor told me that I needed to join your group." And so I'll spend time talking with them and they'll be saying, "But I've got nothing to offer." And I'm
Oh,
like, "But you do,
yeah.
you do." And very often they've never heard that. They've never heard somebody see the goodness in them. So
Yeah.
that's at that one end of the spectrum. At the other end, my God, I've got some amazing Black women in there that I am so humbled that they want to be a part of my network.
Yeah.
We've got doctors and lawyers, we've got chief executives, we've got award-winning business women, social entrepreneurs, we've got counselors and psychotherapists and OBEs and MBEs, and we've got everything in that group. But Selena, it's what they do in that space that is quite phenomenal. Sometimes I watch conversations unfold. Somebody will share that they have an issue or a problem. Somebody will come in and sort that out for them. People have set up businesses and partnerships. They've given each other jobs and opportunities. They share knowledge, information. So much
Yeah.
is so rich in that group. So going back to, your thing about what can they do, join a Soul Purpose 360 group. If there isn't one there, we'll help you to set up one. Cultivate your tribe in your community. Bring those women together. There's a saying that says that you are known by the 5 people that you associate with.
Yeah.
And very often when women are living in social housing, their closest association share those same traits that they do: limited beliefs, living on benefits, have no future plans. They have experience of poverty and domestic violence and all of those kind of stuff. And if that is your reality, if that is the 5 people, then you're never going to see a better future for yourself. Lisa Nichols, the empowerment coach, talks about having to leave her community in order to come back and help them.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of message that we need to be telling our women, that you need to join these groups of like-minded women who are positively focused on creating a life for themselves, and to see yourself with a better future, with a having goals. When I'm coaching some of these women who are new to it, and I say to them, "What's your goal? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?" They've never stopped to think about that.
Yeah.
No one's ever asked them that. They're living for today and for tomorrow. They cannot see next week, next month, let alone 5 years. And when you give them the tools to get to know who they truly are, and to give them that support, and tell them that you're here to support them to move on, it's life changing. The
Yeah.
impact is phenomenal. And that's what I wanted to be able to do. So in Soul Purpose, we have a program called Empowered Me, and we're hoping to get every Black woman that's living in social housing to have access to this
Oh,
program so that they can change their lives. And I had this thing that from my work in community development, I would come across Black women who knew all the problems in their communities, but they also knew the solutions. They just didn't have the tools in order to create that change. But one of the things I say is when you invest in Black women, you're investing in a whole community, because that change in that individual changes their relationships with their partners, their relationship with their children, their relationship with their wider community, because Black women are those anchors.
yes.
And so for me, that's what the solution is. It's about investing in and empowering Black women that are living in social housing for them to create that change that we need to see.
I can see that because we're the ones that raise the children as well. So through us, our children usually they become what we are. I mean, not saying all of them do, but it's what we put into our children is very important. And then we put that into the, having that nurturing. I mean, even Slaheoldine, even though she doesn't have children, she has that nurturing type of personality. And so us as women, we want to nurture, whether, when I have students, I work with schools in my area, and I also work with Slaheoldine, and I'm always treating other children like they're my own.
Yeah.
When I'm on the phone and I hear them swear, and my girls be like, my mom's in the room. You can't say that. Like, I'm the big mama, I tell the kids off. But that's what we are as Black women. We they say it takes a village to raise our children, and we believe in that village.
Yes. Soul Purpose 360 is that village.
Yes.
In all of my years working in all of the communities that I've ever worked in, there's always that Black woman that's doing the childcare, that's running the food bank, that's running the projects for the older people. They are there and they're doing it for the whole community, not just the Black people, they're doing it for everybody.
Feeding
and that's
people.
What I mean. When you invest in Black women, you're investing in the whole of that community. It's a win-win for social housing to see that. So rather than seeing Black women in all those deficiencies, because that's your stereotype perception of Black women, see them differently. But, we can't wait for others to see us differently. We have to see ourselves differently. We have to put ourselves across differently in order to create that change,
I can definitely see that, because some of my friends, I have friends here, and I don't have any family here. I moved here because of a marriage, and it hasn't worked, and I can't take my British kids back. But some of my friends have been there for me like family. And so if in the way, and some of my friends, their husbands have died, and when their husbands have died, if we have it, we all pull together and give money or help out, or we're there for each other. Even some of them give food, whatever they can help. We all pull together, and those are the type of women that I surround myself with. One of them who used to keep my children, when I had to work. But that's what is needed, us as community.
Yeah. And that's how it always was for us when we were living in Africa, that communalism, that we supported one another. We need to bring that back so that it's a natural thing that we do. That the Soul Purpose 360 network, I may have set it up, but I tell you, I am reaping the most benefits from it. I have got the most amazing friends now, the most amazing support group. Now it's just absolutely phenomenal. It really is. So yeah. If you're lost in your community, form a group, join a group, get involved, and create that tribe, create that network that's going to support you in a really non-judgmental way.
Yes.
Because we all have experiences, we all got baggage, none of us are perfect. No. And if we can come into a space and be our authentic selves, it takes so much pressure off. We don't have to pretend or act anymore. We can just show up.
Yes.
I've had a really crap day. This is what I've been through. This is my experience. And let it go. Let it go so that you can move on to create the life that you deserve.
Yeah, I agree. And I think even just like you say, partnering with, like I said, Theresa and I, we do it a lot. We talk, we get on the phone, we'll talk for hours, 2 hours minimum. And she'll be telling me about this and this what's happened. And, and sometimes you do need that. And even if it like you just in a small way, someone who's like-minded, kind of in a similar direction, and you can have that person to talk to. It's who gets it and gets the experience you go through, because you can tell someone who doesn't go through the same experience, but they can't understand it in the same way sometimes, especially as a Black female. The things that we experience is so different compared to other, other minorities. It's different from how other women experience things, or so it is nice to and that's why Theresa and I do a lot of work together. We when things come up and I'm like, oh, this might be good for you, or we're always exchanging ideas and supporting one another and saying, oh, come to this will be good for you, and again just opening up opportunities for others. And I think once you do that and you don't have this kind of, this is my mentality, I don't want anyone else to get in because I want to be the only token, there's plenty of room and space, and we can help each other up. So I do agree with you that communities and networks and there's and organizations like what you have is important.
There's so much more that we can gain by working collaboratively. Individually, we may be able to deliver a 10K contract, but collectively we're looking at millions, and I think that that's really what we need to be looking at. How can we pool our resources together? I've got women in the group who have come from different disciplines. I've got tech women, I've got foodies, I've got business, I've got project managers. Let's come together. Let's form these. And let's secure these £1 million, multi-million-pound contracts.
Say it again. I'm all for it. I'm joining. Sign me up, Palma.
I'll send you the membership form. But we need to see ourselves as allies, rather than competitors. When I'm with my coaching clients and we do the DISC assessment, which the DISC is a personality assessment. And so you've got your DEI, the drivers, the influencers, the steady people, and the compliant people. We can't be all of those things all the time. Oftentimes I am, and it leads to burnout. But sometimes as a D, I need the C.
Yeah.
Or I need the S. And if you can pull people together that have these different skills that can fill these gaps, my God, how amazing can we be as business women? And I think that's where we kind of need to be looking to move. What do I need? What skill shortage do I need? And who's got that? How can we work together? It's happening. It's happening.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming up to the end of our talk, and we could definitely talk some more. I'm sure we will talk some more offline, and we'll probably have you back on too. But just want to say that this has been a very fruitful conversation, and selfishly, I've been enjoying it myself. Just in having such empowering and powerful conversations with you, and hearing about your experience and what you've learned and how you're continuing to help others. And it just makes you feel like, yeah, this is exactly what we need. And these type of conversations are exactly what we need. And people do need to hear these things. So I'm just really grateful for you, joining us and having us, sit with you and take some time to.
The pleasure's been all mine. It's really good to be able to have these kind of conversations, and it's been lovely. It's been a really lovely time chatting with you ladies. So yeah.
You too. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure that our listeners will enjoy it too, because there's plenty of people that will be able to relate to the topic. And, all of us, like you said, have had certain types of experiences in our lifetime. So hopefully we can learn from it and we can do more and do better.
Is there anything coming up, Palma, that you have coming that people can listen to, come to, be a part of? What's coming up for you, Palma?
Okay, so tomorrow I have a comment piece in Inside Housing, and it's all about Black women and the mindset shift, and it breaks down about how racism and intersectionalism impacts us as Black women. I'm also hosting a meeting tomorrow, which is about the most senior members in housing, chief executives and more, some government ministers, and we're discussing housing and Black elderly. I heard a statistic the other day that I think 10 years ago there were just over 100 people over 100 years old. Today, there's over 14,000.
Wow.
Yeah, a huge leap. So
Yeah.
there is a big crisis in housing
Yeah.
for people with needs. So that's tomorrow. And then on Tuesday, I am delivering a presentation or two to the BME National Housing Conference. And again, that's about Black women and the mindset shift. And I'm really on this mission to impress upon social housing providers, whether they be housing associations or local authorities, to invest in Black women through our Empowered Me program. So yeah, I've got an exciting week ahead. Got lots more events happening this month for Soul Purpose 360. Honestly, it's going to be absolutely amazing. We're launching the Hounslow Soul Purpose 360 on the 27th of October. And on the Thursday, the 26th, we have an online meeting with some of the sisters from the group who are talking about Black women and personal safety and our rights. Because as you know, there's been lots in the news recently about Black women being attacked and so on and so forth, and even being murdered. And it's a conversation I think that we need to have as Black women about our safety and about our rights as well. So lots going on this month. Yeah.
Do you have a group in Kent?
In Kent, I have some members in Kent, and so I can connect you, but we do definitely need to have a group in Kent. So we're talking Dartford, Gravesend, those kind of areas.
That's where my friends are in Gravesend. So a lot of my friends in the network is in Gravesend. So yes, I'm in Kent Medway. So yeah, I definitely want to connect. Also, going back, I know we're about to end, but the government, we have a lot of over 700 abandoned houses that's not being used. 700,000 abandoned houses that's not being used. And a lot of people have said that some of these abandoned houses could be the issue to part of the housing crisis that's out there. It's been said that there's people who are in hotels, and they've been in hotels for months waiting on housing. And it's not, they say it's not enough housing, but there is housing. What do you think about this housing crisis, not being enough houses, not having enough houses, yet there's loads of houses that are abandoned and not being used?
This is a whole
big sorry
piece. It really is. So first of all, to say that Black people are the predominant group that are in temporary accommodation, the hotels and the temporary private rent, and so they don't have that stability. The issue does need to be addressed. A lot of these houses that you're talking about are private owned houses.
Yes.
That legislation needs to happen in order to bring them back into being. So as Slaheoldine mentioned at the outset, I am head of engagement for a housing company called Edaroff. Everyone deserves a roof over their heads. And it is a wholly owned subsidiary of Atkins Realis, which is a global engineering company. And what we're doing is we are working with housing associations and local authorities to bring brownfield sites back into use and to build these amazing engineer design, zero carbon, net zero houses in these spaces. So there is a lot that's going on, but there's a lot that needs to happen. And again, for me, it's about how these organizations, these different government departments need to come together to strategize solutions to these problems, so that we don't have this housing crisis that's only going to get worse. It's not going to get any better if nothing's done about it.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we will definitely put your links, Palma, in the description, so that people can stay in touch with you and your conversations that you're having, and all of the work that you're doing, just to follow and keep an eye on it, and also how they can be a part of Soul Purpose 360 and all the other amazing things that you're running. We'll leave it with these last couple of questions, and this is just more fun and sort of takeaways. What book would you recommend people should read? The next question is something that you know now that you wish you knew before. What would you tell yourself, if you were looking back? Yeah.
Okay, so they're two quite easy things for me. So first of all, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. I think that's an amazing book to help people to get on their personal development journey. It breaks down about how we think and how powerful our thoughts are in terms of the frequency that they emit. I think that's a really, really good first book. But the scientist in me, I needed a bit more when I just read the Secret. And so Super Brain by Deepak Chopra and Rudolph Tanzi is an amazing book which breaks down the structure of the brain and how the brain functions and operates. It talks about how we can continue to grow neurons in our brain by creating different habits. And what I loved about that book was it started out with the basic brain and ended up with evidence of God. And so for me, that was an amazing read.
Did you watch the Secret movie? They have the movie The Secret. I've watched it.
They do.
Yes.
They do. But with the book, you can underline things and you can come back to it and test it out. And I thought that was really good. The thing that what was that question?
So it was, what do you know? Was there something that you know now that you wish you knew before, or some advice you would give your, younger self coming up?
I would have said to my younger self, just continue being who you are. I think that, as we are growing, we are looking at other people. We see these deficiencies in ourselves and we look at other people and say, I want to be like that. And I think oftentimes we're choosing the wrong attributes to follow. And I admit I was guilty of that. And it took me a while to kind of bring myself back. So I think if I could tell my younger self, I would have said, stay true to who you are. Yes. You're absolutely on the right path. And that's it really. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again for imparting so much wisdom, and we definitely will have you on again, I think, to divulge in some further convo, especially after talking about manifestation and how the brain works and stuff like that, and the science part of it. I think that would be a very interesting conversation. You being a biologist,
I love that.
I'm big on it too. I got Bob Proctor books. I listen to Bob Proctor. I've read The Secret. And I even have one that Bob suggested is about the mind. I forgot, I have the book here, but I'll show you later the book to see if you've read that one too. But I'm very into that thing because I had to work on my mindset and reprogram, and I work on my children, so I've passed it to them. And we've discussed this before, so it'll be interesting if we have that conversation and talk about mindset.
We can come to all our books and we can take the quotes out of there. And so
that's good.
Definitely.
There's so much that we must do to develop ourselves. So I'm forever sharing tips and books and stuff like that. We must do that. Definitely love that.
Even as a session, that probably should be a session we promote and talk about. Have a session where we bring people on together and have those sort of discussions, maybe.
Because we have to reprogram ourselves. That's the one thing that stuff, past trauma, everything could be passed on to us. So we definitely have to shift the way we think, and like you said, that the mindset is very important about what we are capable of doing and what we can do. We can do anything we put our minds to. So
absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you both, and thank you all the listeners and watchers who are watching this on YouTube for joining us for the Don't Speak on It podcast, the podcast that keeps you energized, informed, and empowered. Once again, I am Slaheoldine.
And I'm Theresa, and remember to always speak on it.
Remember to always speak on it.
I'm Palma Black, and remember to always speak on it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. All the best.